So I'm going to tell you my grandfather's story. So my grandfather in 1972 has a bad LSD trip and meets Satan. Um, so the next day, he's sitting in a park with his head in his hands, as one does after they meet Satan. And he is a 23-year-old recent college graduate, just got his CPA license, probably in a new place. I can't recall. And he's sitting with his head in his hands, and along comes the children of God singing and dancing and inviting him to go with them. And this is what we call the seeker in cult world, which is just someone who is seeking to answer life's big questions. And my main answer for like people get into cults because cult recruiters go out and find them. They find the person sitting in the park with their head in their hands, and then they weaponize their discontent and then provide them with themselves as a solution. And we found scholars have found two things that make you vulnerable to joining a cult, which is a lack of social connections and being a seeker, right? And like being a seeker is not a bad thing. The reason that cults pop up in times of social turmoil is because people are seeking, right? Like systems are broken, things aren't working, people are looking for new ways, and then predators are out there. And then the lack of social connections also, it doesn't have to be ever. It can just be like when you move, when you're new at college, which is a huge time for people to get pulled into cults. And I really just think that in any space of personal transformation where you're going in and coming out a different person, predators are going to show up.
Would give me some leeway on this question because I'm going to use very vague words, but to try to get to the heart of what I'm asking, would you say that the people who get involved are they quote unquote normal people, or were these kind of people on the fringes to begin with?
So yes, and um, it's actually called deprivation theory, where we think that only like non-intelligent people or poor people, etc., are going into cults. And because we've had such mass cult movements, like we know that that doesn't hold up. A Harvard educated lawyer died on the side of the Branch Davidians at Waco, right? Like intelligent people all of the time and often are recruited specifically by cults because like I come off great, right? So if I'm explaining a cult to you, like you're probably falling for it. Um but it also can be about the social fringes, right? Because it's just like one cult scholar, Margaret Singer, she just says you kind of just got to have two things going on at once. Be like displaced and depressed or lonely, be just have gone through a big sort of life transition and also be questioning something, and you have these
Yeah.
two factors sort of going on at once, and it's just easy to get pulled in. And I also think it's helpful if people realize that, like, it's a con. And the same way I think we understand that anyone can be conned.
It always, when you're watching the documentaries, right? Like, it always seems like, how did you not see that this was not what you thought it was pretty early on? Like, how do people not pick up on it? Or do they pick up on it and ignore it?
So it's both. It's both. And there's a book called Scarred by Sarah Edmondson, who was one of the Nexium whistleblowers. And I think that book is really valuable because it shows you someone walking themselves into a cult with their eyes wide open. It's not that she doesn't see the red flags, is that she sees them, but then she immediately rationalizes them with tools that are given to her by the cult. So, for example, everyone's seen this on social media, right? But all of a sudden, this beautiful person pops up and they're like, only 10% of people are going to understand this. Like only a
Yeah.
special group of people is going to understand this. It's going to make you feel uncomfortable. It's going to make you push past your comfort points, but it works, right? And then when you are there an hour later going like, I don't know about this, you're like, well, they told me, right? Like
Right. They set the
they told
stage.
me I would be special if I got it. They told me that I just need to push through, which is thought stopping, right? So it's like love bombing, thought stopping, and getting you to buy into this. And another really, really, really big thing is called social proof. And, human beings, like we think we're rational. I think, therefore I am. And more and more empirical science we get shows us that like we're not rational. We make most of our decisions based on recency bias and social proof, right? So like what worked for us most recently and what everyone else around us is doing. And so if you're surrounded by a group of people and someone is saying something completely bonkers, but nobody else is responding as though that's completely bonkers, everyone's going along with it. And so the children of God specifically, when they would put out some of their crazy doctrines, like we're all going to have sex with Jesus now, they would literally issue like an edict that this has to be read with other members. Right. And like that was the practice anyway. You sit around, you have your devotions, you read out the doctrines. But if someone was like watching the children or away for some reason, they couldn't catch up on it by themselves. They had to be with another person.
I'm a big numbers person. So imagine that the entire time that somebody is in a cult is 10 days. By day what is somebody starting to think this is a little strange? And then by day what is somebody like, I should probably leave? If you could kind of condense that time into 10 days.
The first day, you're getting love bombed and you're getting brought in through what is called an identity breaking indoctrination process. I write in my book that the Eras Tour might be a good example of this for the right person. And then after that, like after the love bombing phase, when you're kind of in, you're beginning to be walked in. Let's call that a 3-day process. And everything's changing really, really fast. You're being pulled into the machine, you're being worked, you're being all of this stuff, but you're shutting down all of the weirdness. So the weirdness is happening the whole time, I think. You're just shutting it down all of the time. And this is why I think nobody knows how to get people out of cults, because we buy into the indoctrination. Exactly the same as sort of an abusive relationship. And like an abusive relationship, you spend, so you're spending from day 4 to day 7, just trying to get back to the day 1 love bombing. And believing that if you work hard and you do all the things and you're pregnant and busy and tired and alone and hungry and all of the things that cults do to keep you going, like you're going to get back to perfect. And then by day like 7, I feel like for a lot of people, you're like, oh, no, this is never going to work. And there's something will happen that I call the crack in the brainwashing. A lot of times this is a medical emergency for yourself or your child. And I think, in my opinion, I think that's because people realize that there's no amount of sacrifice that the cult will be like, okay, you're done. Like they'll just keep taking and keep taking and keep taking. And then like once you realize it's a cult, you're on the way out, right? You're on your so day like 7 to 10, right? You're getting away and you're dealing with all of the exit costs.